Hi there and welcome to my channel. Today's project is for the Vicki Boutin design team and I'm very excited because I got my hand on some of the new Fernwood collection papers. Vicki usually sends me the entire collection, but I want to hoard, because that's the best way to put it, some of the papers because I love this collection. So I went and bought a few of them outside of my design team package. So I'm gonna start by adding some mixed media, some two foundation paper, but in my excitement of unpacking the papers, I forgot to turn on the camera, but I'm gonna give you the gist of it. So I am using foundation paper and my background is gonna be created using the neutral art crayon. I am using that orangey tone and also that I think it's like a olivey green, and all I did is just scribble a little bit of the art crayon on a piece of acrylic, added some water, and I'm just creating literally a splatter or like a puddle of watercolor or diluted art crayon in this case on the right hand side of my layout. You're gonna see that I have two photos of my goddaughters, and I'm making sure that the mixed media is gonna peek from behind the photos. These are the two colors that I use of art crayon, and all I did literally is scribble them on a piece of acrylic, add some water to dilute them, and then add them onto my paper. Quite a bit of water because I want them to mix naturally. I want to get to like an earthy tone, but still you're gonna see that I place the orange at the top of the page and I'm adding the green at the bottom. I am lifting my paper a little bit because I have quite a bit of water on my page so that I am able to create that mixture right on the center. Now here's the key. I talk about it all the time. I am using foundation paper for my background. That means that it's really heavy cardstock. It's 140-pound cardstock that has a little bit of a coating on the top, so I'm able to play with mixed media. If you do not have access to a foundation paper, please use cardstock that has a layer of gesso so that you're able to protect your paper and it's not gonna warp. My paper, even though I'm using foundation, it does warp a little bit because I have quite a bit of water. You're gonna see I have a puddle right on the center of my page, and I'm okay with that because it's kind of the look that I'm going for, not the warping, the watercolor. So you're gonna see, again, if you've seen my projects before, I work a lot with splatters, which means that I splatter some color and use the brush to extend it. It's just the look that I enjoy, and in this case I want a splatter. Think of it as a big puddle of watercolor on your paper. That's the look that I'm going for. It sounds funny, but that's the look that I want. Still, this is gonna be mixed media. I'm gonna add a few more coats of mixed media, but this is my first coat. I want to make sure that I have, again, I want to start with little, and then when you add color or mixed media onto a page, think of it working from little to a little bit more, not to a lot. You can never take away. You can add, but cannot take away. So I am making sure that my photos, I'm gonna see right in the center of the puddle, and I have little splatters coming. You're gonna see it's kind of a triangular shape, and I'm okay with that. I have enough watercolor that is gonna peek from behind the photos, but I'm not covering my entire page. So one of the keys here right now is I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna set it aside to dry completely, and then I'm gonna come in with a stamp set. I am using this script stamp set from Vicki's second collection. If you don't have this, because it's a really hot commodity, go ahead and use anything that's gonna give you a really fine impression. I just want this fine script, and I am using archival ink. I think this is, oh my god, what's the name of this color? You think I remember, but it's a green tone from archival ink. This is distressed archival ink, and I'm just gonna stamp the sentiment of the script along the watercolor that I created. I want to have some lines that show vividly, and I want to have some lines that show just as a ghost impression on the background. So to create that, you're gonna see that I add ink onto my stamp, I put it on top of my watercolor, and then once I create the first impression, I go and stamp a second impression right below it, and that's just gonna have the leftover ink, so it's gonna give you that ghostly impression, kind of broken, and that's the look that I'm going for. I'm gonna make sure that I have the script is gonna peek, or it's gonna show from behind the photos. So a lot of it is gonna be hidden, but I want to make sure that some of it also shows. So because I'm using archival ink, I'm able to continue working right away. And for creating some texture and a little bit of dimension, I'm gonna use a little bit of rose gold. I still have a little bit left in my stash, and I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of yeso. I am mixing it because I want to take some of the shininess, is that a word, from the gold glaze, and I want to dull the color. My goddaughters, most of my little cousins are wearing dresses that I sent to them, and they have this little pink tone lining, and it had like lace on top of it and a brown sash. So I want to pick some of those colors for my background. That's why I mixed the rose gold with the yeso. And I am using this stencil. This is from Color Study. You're gonna see that I'm going to bring my little palette knife. In this case, I'm gonna apply the paste right on the center of the stencil, and then I'm gonna come in with that stencil brush. And then what I'm doing with the stencil brush is just kind of extending the look of the impression, so that it continues that look that I have on the background, like that ghostly look. So I want to make sure that I have the texture of the impression. That's where I'm applying it with my palette knife. But then whenever I get to the edges of that impression, I am using my stencil brush just to create that faint look, so it kind of fading into the background. That's the best way to say it. And then I'm gonna make sure that I set it aside to dry completely before I come to the next step, or the next look, or the next layer of mixed media. For this, I am using gold glaze. I am adding a little bit of water to dilute it. I want it to be the consistency of a very runny acrylic paint, and then all I'm gonna do is add splatters onto my page. I want to make sure that, especially think of it as a triangle, if you see, kind of has that shape. I want to make sure that I have gold splatters at the vertices of the triangle, and just a little bit on the right hand side. That's all it's gonna take for my background. My apologies on the first part of the watercolor. Like I said, in my excitement of unpacking, I forgot to turn on the camera, but when I remember, I realized it, and I think it was a little bit too late, so my apologies on that. So I'm going to try to use as much as I can of the paper from Fernwood. I don't have the embellishments. I just have the paper and some puffy stickers. That's all I could get my hands on, and I bought quite a bit of it. So I'm going to read the names of the papers because, like I said, I don't know them yet. This is the Flora and Fauna, which is probably one of my favorites. I love florals, and Vicki florals are beautiful. So I'm going to say the bottom quarter of the paper. I am also going to fussy cut some of the butterflies, and I think the name of the paper is Hello Friends. I'm going to cut some of those butterflies, and I'm also going to cut these pink daisies, and that's the B side of the, I think it's one that has the deer on the A side. Let me double check. I have the papers here. Yeah, this paper's name is Into the Woods. So I'm gonna cut those pinky daisies. I saw it when Vicki did the unboxing, and I went and bought like 5 of those papers because I know I'm gonna use them. So I fussy cut everything outside of the camera. It took me a while. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to back the pictures, and for that I am using the B side of the Climbing Vines paper because the color is like this teal tone that contrasts a lot with the colors that I have on the background. You're going to see that I have a lot of warm tones, pinks and yellows, and this light green, and like I said, my goddaughters are wearing these tones of like peach and blush, so I'm gonna go with that teal to contrast that and frame it nicely. And then I'm gonna give it a second piece of paper, and that's from that beautiful wreath. The name of the paper is called Gather, and just had those tones of green that I have on the background. So I'm gonna make sure that I put the pictures, I'm gonna offset them. I'm not gonna put them side by side. I'm gonna put them a little bit on an offset. So, but I'm gonna add a little bit of foam adhesive behind them. I wanna make sure that they pop from the page. And once I have that, then it's all gonna be about arranging the florals behind the photo so that they look as beautiful as they look fussy cut. So this big floral, I love it. once I put it down, I was like, I don't like the orange flower because it was just too bright for the colors that I have going on. So my choice, I'm just gonna hide it underneath the photos, and instead I'm gonna play with the pink tone that I have on the dresses. So you're gonna see that I'm okay with hiding my flowers. I'm okay with, even though I fussy cut the flowers, I'm okay with fussy cutting even like, further and taking away the leaves, like kind of separating the cluster. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with cutting the ephemera. As long as it works for me, it's a good thing. Don't be stuck with the idea that the ephemera has to be as is, or the floral cluster has to go as is. No, you are able to cut it to make it work for your project. So that's what I'm doing. You're gonna see I'm gonna cut leaves, I'm gonna cut flowers. I'm okay with that. I want to make sure that this works for me, not that that I'm gonna sacrifice some of the look just to make the papers kind of work for the paper. No, make the paper work for you. So don't be afraid of cutting some of the leaves. Just try to make sure that you follow the edges of the flowers and stuff like that, just in case you have to move it. So like I said, remember that orange flower, it just like it was really clashing with what I had. So instead I'm gonna kind of hide it behind the photos. Once I have that in the paper, I'm gonna add some foam adhesive behind all the pieces. I cut the little part over the leaves and the ferns with the little daisies. I just cut it off the paper because I know that I can use it to create a cluster of florals on the top of the pictures. So like I said, I'm not afraid of cutting paper into smaller pieces. I do cry because it's beautiful paper. I'm not gonna lie, I would love to be able to use it, but it's not gonna be practical for me. So just keep that in mind. So all I'm doing right now is just playing with all the pieces that I have, and you're gonna see that I fussy cut even further the pieces just to create clusters. I want to create that big cluster on the left hand side of my photos is gonna stay as is. I'll make sure that the big pink daisy shows at the bottom. I'm gonna add more of the little daisies that I fussy cut from the Into the Woods paper, the B side. I'm gonna add another small cluster of those pink daisies on the bottom right corner of my photos, and then I'm gonna add another third cluster of those pink daisies on the top right corner, in the middle of the photos at the top. I cut some of the ferns, remember the ferns and the leaves from that big cluster, and that's going to help me to create the cluster at the bottom of the pictures. To finish that, I actually cut some of the butterflies. I'm going to use that big one that has the yellow with some touches of blue right at the top because I had a lot of space, so that's going to fill the space. I'm going to bring that red one right on the left hand side of the layout, right below those pink daisies. And I'm going to use that little blue one on the bottom right corner of my layout, and I had this tiny little green one, and I'm going to add that one right in between the two pictures at the bottom part of it. I love how this turned out. I love all the flowers. I love the fact that it looks like wildflowers. I love it, and I don't want to cover much of that. So instead I went into color study and I pulled a few pieces. You're gonna see that I pulled some of the puffy stickers, just like the gold heart and the little orange heart. I'm gonna add it to the top right corner of my photos. I added, this is a cardstock sticker that says "Make Today Awesome," and I just added some foam adhesive behind. It's gonna be my title, and then I'm just gonna go into the sticker tablet. I put a little tab and one of those little word phrases, just a black one, and that's about it. I added my lines to journal right underneath in between the red butterfly and the flowers, and it was all crooked because I didn't realize it until it was finished. But I love how this turned out. I'm in love with the collection. Like I said, I have all the papers, and I'm thinking that I should order more because it's just beautiful. As always, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. Remember to check the blog for more details, and thank you so much for joining me. Take care, guys.